Hi, my name is Debbie Pendergrast. I'm Business Development Manager here at Keencut, and I'm going to take you through today's session covering how to change the bearings on both the vertical action cutting head and the rocker head for the Simplex. Now I'm going to start with the vertical action cutting head. So this covers our current Sabre Series 2 cutter bar and also our discontinued Javelin S2, Javelin Integra and Evolution 2 range. So the premise is exactly the same, and I will take you through exactly how that should be done, particularly on the Sabre itself. Now, for this, you will need a few things. You will need a 2mm Allen key. You will need a small piece of card. I've actually cut this from mount board. This is about 6mm in width to be able to slide the bearing out from underneath the vertical action cutting head. And you will also need some bearings. Now, the bearings that we have for the polymer style bearings, we have a guarantee of 20 years. So in order to change them, if you think you're having issues with them, we will require the serial number of your cutter bar itself. Then we can send you a pair of bearings and you can actually change them yourself. So without further ado, I'll take you through exactly the steps you'll need to do that. So here you have the vertical action cutting head. Currently, it actually has a graphic blade holder installed. So this holds the blade here, as you can see. I'm going to need to remove that for safety purposes. So in order to remove that, I just need to unscrew our silver screws here. Then I can lift the blade holder up and off and remove it. And this exposes this part here. Now the bearings are held in place by these two screws. These are the grub screws that I also need to remove because these actually attach the cutting head itself to the slideway. So I need my 2mm Allen key, and I'm just going to actually start removing all of these four . Everything has now been removed from the front here. So in order to remove the bearing is attached just at the back of the front part. So I'm going to take my piece of card. I'm going to slip it just at the back of the cutting head itself on the slideway. And if I push my slideway, the cutting head against the bearing, as you can see, pops out. So this is the piece that I need to change. I can put that to one side and discard that. With that being removed, I can simply slide the head off the slideway itself. So we have the back bearing here that I also need to remove in order to change it entirely. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those screws. That bearing is also now fully removed, so I can discard those. And need to now change the bearings entirely. So I will open my packet of bearings, in which I have 2 new bearings and 4 screws and 2 grub screws. The bearing itself is shaped in almost an A, so there's a flat part and it's slightly beveled on this side to actually go up and down against the slideway. So this is the way that it is installed. As you can see, it sits like so. So I need to put the one on the back first. There we go. So nice and tight, all fixed in. The head can then be put back on the slideway. So the back now has the bearing on it and the front currently doesn't. It's installed again with the back to the flat part towards the front of the head and the sloped part towards the bearing. So we just put that in there. Lift it up and we can slide that behind the head. Again, insert the screws. So once the grub screws are in, there's quite a bit of movement. So in order to stop that movement, you can tighten them up a little bit more. Now, if you tighten them too much, you'll find that the slideway is the head itself gets completely stuck to the slideway and it won't move. So that means they're too tight. So if you loosen them a little bit, you'll find the movement is quite good. There's not a massive amount of movement. You'll need to check this again after 2 weeks to make sure, because they'll embed after 2 weeks, and just to make sure there's not too much movement. If there is too much movement of the head, you will need to tighten up these 2 grub screws again a little bit. But once you've done the bearings, you can reinsert the graphic blade holder, slot them down, and your machine's good to go. For the Simplex, it's almost the same process, but you will actually need something else. So you will need a 10mm wrench. The 10mm wrench, you'll also need your 2mm Allen key, your piece of card, and of course a new set of bearings. So for the Simplex, for safety features, you obviously have to remove the blade itself. So unscrew the blade, push the blade ejector holder, and bring the medium duty blade out of its holder. You need to access this part here, because as you can see, you cannot access all of the screws. You can't access the 2 screws that hold the bearing, and you also need to remove it from the slideway itself. So you'll need to unscrew this knoblet here and put it to one side. This exposes the 10mm nut, which we need to remove. Put those to one side. Then we need to access this grub screw here. This needs to be undone, so we need the 2mm Allen key. Then the faceplate itself can come off. Do be careful about the bearings. You need to keep hold of this bearing here, and there is a washer here as well as a bearing, so you need to make sure that they don't go anywhere, and keep hold of those and make them safe. Then you need to remove, again, the grub screws. Once you have removed all of the screws and the grub screws, then you can take your piece of card again and put it in the slideway and just push the head, so that will expose the bearing at the back. Keep saying slideway. So you can remove those. Taking the new bearing set, new bearings, and of course the fixings for the bearings. The head will come off the slideway, and we need to remove the 2 screws on the back. Again, the bearing needs to go this way round, with the flat part towards the back and the bevel part towards the slideway. So we'll just put that on the back there and screw it into position. Once it's there, housed properly, then you can put the cutting head onto the slideway and insert the new bearing on the front. Taking the new bearing with the flat part towards the back and the tapered part towards the front. Just place it into position and slide it in. Make sure it's lined up, and then you can screw it into place. and you don't want it too much, otherwise they won't be able to move. So just loosen them off a little. And again, after a couple of weeks, you should recheck them because they will have been embedded. So you want them to be able to move nicely. Replace. Make sure you've got the nut and the bearing. Replace the head. And the nut. Screw it back into place. Tighten the grub screw up here. Now you need to make sure that it's not too tight, otherwise if it is, you won't get the spring back action with the rocker head. Once it's flush, take the knoblet, screw it back on, replace your blade, secure it, and you've successfully changed the bearings on your Simplex and your machine is good to go. I hope you've enjoyed this session. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll be running another session in another 2 weeks covering how to extend your bench. I hope you'll join me for that. All of the sessions that we do here are housed on our Keencut YouTube channel. You can also follow us for more information and news on Keencut via our social media channels. You'll find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. So if you have any questions, you can always get in touch with us here at Keencut. And if you'd like some more information on the Keencut products, please feel free to visit our website at keencut.com. Many thanks for joining me. Have a great day today. See you soon. Bye bye.